Hello, beautiful souls, and happy full moon. And this isn't just the full moon, but this is the super full moon. This is the fourth one of the year and the last one of this year. So there's something to be celebrating about, as well as many of you might be feeling quite a bit of energy shifts in the last couple of days. And then this will continue on for a couple more days as well. And you might be feeling and maybe sensing a lot of that rhythm of the cosmic rhythm today into maybe next couple of days. So I just wanted to start letting you know that when there's full moon, new moon, and everything in between, but particularly super moon is going to have an impact on your body. And I also wanted to start by saying thank you for being you. And thank you for showing up and listening to this video. And please subscribe if you haven't subscribed to this channel, and give us thumbs up when you feel like you resonate with the video as well. Thank you. And first, I wanted to start with the moon that is in our atmosphere right now is fully taking on the sunlight. So it's extremely bright. And this light is going to have an impact on your inner illumination as well. So I would love for you to just tune into yourself for a moment, gather up that light, and receive that light from this full moon, this super full moon. So let's take a moment and feel that. As the moon is receiving the sunlight, we get the reflective light back to us, and we are being illuminated inside. So just take a moment and feel and absorb and receive that. And this is going to be very important for us to pause and do this today and the next couple of days as well, because we're going to need this energy. We need this light to get through and navigating through the next couple of months, particularly next couple of months. And another thing that I want to point out before I go into 4 key words that I wanted to go over today is that this full moon may, for many of you, I think, will make you feel like there's this sense of emptiness that shows up inside you. A sense of like, not necessarily not enough kind of emptiness, but a sense of void, spaciousness that can feel a little bit more uncomfortable kind of a space, emptiness that you want to feel like you want to fill it right away because it makes you feel very, very uncomfortable being in the space of nothingness. But before you start to fill that space up because you feel uncomfortable, the discomfort can be really powerful, right? So you may act upon that and you don't want to deal with that emptiness. But before you go ahead and fill that all up, let's go through some of these things today, because these are the items that maybe you want to sit with it, and then you can choose, you can discern and put those things back into that space. So first item is gathering. And these are the 4 words that came to me: gathering, and then giving, and coming back, and lastly, visioning. And so we'll go through that quickly today. And first one is gathering. So gathering, what are we gathering? During the full moon period, obviously it's today, but the next couple of days too, if you could spend time looking into gathering your own inner virtue. And the word virtue might be a little bit complicated or have a different connotations or sounding, maybe you have a different explanations for virtue. But I want you to think of it as goodness of the qualities that you have within you and maybe even around you. But it requires a little bit of discipline to gather your virtue. And I want you to focus in on yourself during this full moon, particularly this one, and start to gather things like empathy that you have. Maybe you have kindness that you show often, and qualities that you bring to yourself and into the community that will bring people closer instead of making further gaps and widen the space between us. So gather some of these virtues. So empathy, I've mentioned, kindness, your lovingness and generosity, and less alienation, appreciation that you have for yourself, but also for others as well. And flexibility, that's a virtue that you may be working on. Flexibility in your ligaments and connective tissues and muscles, but also flexibility of your minds, your thinking. So you're not limiting to just one type of news or one type of information. You're gathering different ways that you can become flexible with and not harden yourself, but always look into softening your stances in certain things. In certain things, you may need to stand up strong, but know that there are ways that you can ebb and flow with it, just like the moon does. Curiosity can be your virtue. Openness, like flexibility, very similar, rather than shutting down and creating, like a limitedness, but instead of that, more spaciousness. So not feed more illusion of separation or division further. That would be your virtue, because then you don't feed back into the world that is trying to limit, it's trying to separate ourselves, trying to create dualities. So you're not getting caught up in that. So these are the qualities that will keep you grounded and flexible. And I always think of like bamboos and bamboo forests. They are grounded, they're very rooted, they're rooted with each other. So there's this community of networks that are going on with their root system, but they can shoot up really fast upward, but they can bend and they can release, they can move with the winds and snow. They can move with the storms. So that's kind of what you're gathering up inside you. Do I have that kind of strength, groundedness, and flexibility? And I would recommend that you might listen to the July 2nd call that I did about 3 Ps. And we'll put a link below so you can check that out. And all these things are going to, gathering of your own virtues are going to be very helpful in order for you to not go off kilter in the next several months. A lot of shifts are going to be happening to the rest of the year, right? Many of us been hearing that, and we can feel it inside us. So gather your virtue. And the second one is giving. And this is giving in a way that intuitively what came to me is gratitude to all your teachers. So you're giving gratitude to all your teachers. That includes, human teachers, but animal teachers as well as nature. I have a lot of teachers in my life, and like hummingbirds are my teachers for sure. Also beautiful trees, mountains, hikes, and various elements from water to earth to wind. All these things can give you different things that you learn from. So take a moment and give back to them the gratitude, the thanks. And also, I would love for you to pause for a moment here to think of ways that you can bring gratitude towards yourself. We don't spend enough time saying thank you to our own body, mind, and spirit. Taking the time to gather, right? Gather the gratitude and give that back to ourselves. So I have come up with some ideas that you can use if you like, but gratitude for your tenacity and resilience, gratitude for your determination, your creativity, inner beauty, sensitivity, strength, and your uniqueness, authenticity. Those are the things that maybe you could pause and just give yourself the gratitude. So it's giving, but you gather these things that you want to give gratitude also to. So these two items kind of go together. And the third thing is coming back. And it's really when I tuned into the full moon and the full moon said, coming back talk about coming back and how important that is. Moon is always teaching us the cycles. There's a beginning and then there's an end, and the beginning begins. And it's this ebb and flow, never ending cycles. But each moment, even the new moon is coming back, but also the full moon has its own coming back. It's, what the moon was saying to me was try not to make things so complicated. We're all bombarded with too much information. We are trying to handle more than what we can handle. So coming back is really focus on quality of things instead of quantity of things. Coming back is knowing what your limit is, knowing maybe a bowl that can handle, so take a look at what you can hold in that moment. Maybe the next moment you can let go of some of it and the new things can come in. But notice what you can hold onto today or what you can process today in this moment. And also focus on things that you have a control over, that you can change, that you can attend to, and things that you can not only change on your own, but you can ask for support from others to make those appropriate changes. So coming back to knowing yourself, coming back to not making things too complicated. It's like, yes, this I can change, this I can attend to. And the rest, take a little break from it, because what you can change might be plenty right now. And, coming back also means you can only be you. Nobody else can be you. And it seems like, yeah, Masami, that is like, duh, I can only be myself. But, many of us are trying to be somebody else, or trying to do things that other people have told you that you should do or ought to do. You could do it. If you try this, you would become this. So, Chris talks about the cows a lot, right? Could, ought to, would, and should. Cows. Try not to get too caught up in that, because that's what the full moon is teaching us. Come back to being you. That's why I started out saying, thank you for being you. And I would love for you to just take a moment and say, come back to myself, thanking yourself for being you. And a concept that I think would be very helpful is to come back to your base camp. Think of a base camp, like if you're going to go hiking or you're going to be doing some kind of rafting trip, maybe some other things, but you could be traveling and then you have a hotel room or Airbnb that you've rented. That's your base camp. Set up your base camp. That is coming back to that place. When you feel like you've gone out too far, when you feel like you need a rest, you can come back. And that's knowing your limits. That's knowing that you can only be you, and take responsibility for what it is that you're able to do and what you are here to do, and know when to say yes to and when to say no. But often we don't know that if you don't come back to your base camp. Okay. And let's see. I think that this next week or so is an amazing time for us it's kind of like an opportunity that we've been given in August to revisit our old patterns and old habitual ways that we've done things, to transcend that, to transform that. So, but you wouldn't know that if you can't come back to your base camp, because you don't know where you started. You don't know what you're capable. You don't know how much you can handle in that moment. So see if you can build an internal base camp inside you. Come back. I always talk about coming home, because all sickness is homesickness. And I think if you've been dealing with illnesses of any kind, body, mind, spirit, come back to your base camp and see if you can set up a space that you can think better again, that you can feel and you can respond to situations better. And the last thing is visioning. So let's take a moment right now just I think it's important that you visualize the moon in the sky, the full moon in the sky, and receive, like just as we started it in the beginning, receive that light internally. So let's visualize receiving. You could be sitting on like maybe a rock or by a tree, maybe sitting on a grass or lawn chair, or somewhere that you feel so utterly comfortable within yourself, and just receive that fullness of that light inward. Absorb that. And then we're going to take it one step further for this fourth item of visioning, is that I would love for you to visualize that light being processed inside and now turning that light around and sharing and expanding that same light, the intensity and the beauty and the vibration of that light outward into the world. And as you release and share and expand that light from you out, that light that you received from the moon, in and now out, I would love for you to think and feel and visualize connections between one another. A world that is connected and working together, and communities being formed that would be supportive to one another. Companionship is great and being created. You're coming together. So visualize that kind of a community. We're all holding hands together, sharing each other's beaming lights. And then once you've done that, come back to the space again. And as you come back to your own inner knowing space, ask yourself these questions that I asked in February with the Water Tiger Year introduction. And I will put the link below as well for February's call that we did. But I would love for you to ask your questions, your own deeper self. Where do I need to put my energy towards? Where do I need to put my energy towards? And where am I heading now? Where am I heading now? You have August, September, October, November, and December left of this year. And even though the calendars do not need to end in December, it's a good way to look at, okay, what am I here to do? Where am I heading now? Visualize that. That's the visioning that you're doing right now. And where do you want to end up at the end of this year? And once you've asked those questions, pause the video, write these down so you know that this is something that you can come back to over and over, and visualize what that looks like for you. What does that feel like to you in your body, viscerally? Because if you can't visualize it, number one, you're never going to take actions. But if you can't feel it in your body can't mobilize it, right? So those two things have to come together. And the last thing I wanted to say about this full moon is that this full moon is gently and firmly, it's gentle but firmly asking us to perceive this world as a friendly place, as a friendly place, as a generous space, generous land, generous place that you've chosen to be here right now. Your soul has chosen to be here. But perceive this world as a friendly place. And when you perceive it that way, and when you visualize friendly space, that you are standing on, you will respond very differently. And your response will change when you can see it as a generous and friendly place. And I had to do that over the weekend as well. It's like I really needed to hear this from the moon saying, no, that's a supportive. And the word friendly is really helpful. You know, it's a loving place that it cares about you. And it's generously offering all these support for you. Then I thought I can respond to that with much more kindness, much more joyfulness and laughter. So that's what I have for you today. Again, the 4 things that you can come back to revisit are gathering virtue, giving gratitude, not only to your teachers and nature and other things that you are so grateful for and your ancestors, but also give gratitude to yourself. And then come back to the base camp over and over, and visualize a friendly space, friendly place that you are standing on, sitting on, and then absorb that light and give that vision of light out into the world. Thank you so much, everyone. And hopefully we can come together at some point in person that we can share this together by holding hands. But for now, know that I am reaching out to you, and so many of you that have come here to watch this are doing the same. Namaste, everyone.